Okay, looks like
Yes, I can hear you.
you can hear now. Okay, looks like we have folks trickling in, and I believe as people get off their meetings and get
Yes,
on to the
I can hear you.
12 team. Good. Okay, looks like we have folks trickling in, and I believe as people get off their meetings and get on to the. That's the echo test from our YouTube live session. So I think we should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, every time there is something we learn about Zoom, and I'm glad that they're making the changes because this is live testing. Maybe you can probably endorse the product security changes that you can actually see visibly end user, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give a couple of more minutes for people to join. Yeah.
Do that.
Maybe we should replay the video that we did in the last summit.
The CFF annual summit, right? Yes,
yeah,
that'll be fun.
That's that. When we had between your video and Edna's video, she was like, "Yeah, this sounds very articulate. Let's just put this on."
That'll be a teaser for the next summit coming up too in 2020.
It truly is. So I think we talked about diversity. We talked about the capabilities. We talked about how to expand the cyber profession and expand the cyber talent. And so it was a really good piece of work. Good.
Yes.
Thank you. And then, so for those who are joining us and don't have an idea what you're talking about, Jyothi was also a speaker at our last summit, and we did short segment videos on topical issues and also what the passion was about for what the leaders were looking forward to, and among other topics, I think that the diversity in cybersecurity and overall getting more women in cyber was one of the most interesting topics we had. We had actually a 1:1 ratio of women in cyber in the panel, so it was great.
That's true. And I think it's increasing because there's more awareness at even at the school level, with more girls getting to code and getting interested in technology. It's happening. So it's definitely much better than it was 10 years ago. But we have a long way to go.
We do have a really long way to go. And I think cybersecurity is still a very geeky, nerdy, career. So hopefully that we will be able to change that, and we'll be able to inspire more young girls to take up not only just coding, but also a serious effort in cybersecurity. I think the Girl Scouts have done a great job. And when you say great job, there's more work to be done.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I think we are pretty close to the top of the hour. This should not matter. We've already started talking. So Jyothi, again, welcome to the CFF Live Launch Hour show. We have had a chance to speak in between, and I'm really excited and looking forward to this session. There are so many things we could talk about. We'd probably have half a day session just with you and your topic and what you're doing. But in the next 40 minutes or so that we'll be having this conversation, I want to share, get to share with you and get your story shared with our audience and the CFF community and the broader community about your leadership journey. How you have grown in this field, and from all the speakers and all the leaders in this community that we've spoken with, nobody had a straight line in their career, right? So everybody learned something on the way. This is our 15th iteration of this. We started as a response to the COVID-19 situation where we needed to keep the community together. In the first month, as we have spoken, right, in the first couple of months was all about how are we responding to the pandemic and how how the organizations are working through the situation, and we quickly moved to the longer term recovery and response. I believe you got busy too early July, so we had to get you a little bit more time to bring you back in.
Yes.
In fact, this month's programming is going to be pretty interesting because it has the real practitioner flavor to it as well, and you are the first speaker on product security. And as we move forward, we'll have other topics, as in passwordless authentication. We have zero trust, and then I think I mentioned like cyber peace. All of us want to contribute to that. So welcome to the program again. I think we have a pretty decent crowd gathering. So good afternoon and good evening to folks. Some of the folks that I see here. And if any of your colleagues want to join and are not able to, this session is actually available live on YouTube live session. It's the link is up there on YouTube. So let's get started, Jyothi. Let us learn a little bit about you, your role, and your leadership journey. Let's start with that.
Thank you so much, Val. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to a forum, because I think we are in a place where we can inspire each other. Every person's life has a story to tell. And we can always learn on lessons from other people, how they have, or even our own journey. Every journey is unique, just like our fingerprint. I got into the technology field way back in '99. And when I joined Travelocity, it was primarily coding. I was working on Travelocity's international product development team. It was more on, heads down, you get your requirements and you code, you work with your set of developers. We also launched the first initial Agile. It was Unified Phase 1. But you don't get to interact at a larger scale. And just by a stroke of luck, I was the whole product development team was laid off when Travelocity bought Holiday Autos, and then I joined another team which had systems integration, data integration, and security. And I thought, I'm not that kind of person. I like coding. For me, it was all about getting to see your application work. And I didn't realize that there is so much more that you can leverage. So it's so important to be adaptable. It's not the survival of the fittest, it is the survival of the most adaptable person. And I loved my journey when I got into systems integration, or looking at different, SAML and authentication, or, SFTP, public key, private key encryptions. That was fascinating, but you could leverage what you learned earlier into this. So that's one of the pieces. And throughout my journey, I think it's been, whether it's been program management or governance and architecture, security, application and application building, and then, SSDLC and product management. I think everything has a piece of how do you come to the table and with your 100% focus, and how do you have your best version of yourself, and that best version of yourself is leveraged by the perspective you bring from each and every of your experiences.
Sure.
So and I think that's important for anybody. It's not just me. So today, where I am today and where you are, or the audience is, if we all just take a moment and we look back and reflect on that particular time, or it could have been an event where you felt successful, where you felt that, yes, I've achieved it, and you had that elation. But when you look back at that moment, you can realize that it was not an overnight thing. There was a lot of hard work that went into that. There was a lot of learning that went into that. There were a lot of people who supported you in that particular moment. And there's a lot of people whom you helped mentor as well. So it's always, there are different aspects or facets to that particular success. And that's what you bring. So I think that's what has been primary in my journey. And I have a long way to go. It's just so much that I see in front of me. And I'm like, wow, when you're learning constantly, you know how much you don't know.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. What a true statement. Like, entire life is a journey, and learning is what keeps that fired up. You mentioned about some of the situations which actually led you to on a different path than you had originally set on, the traveler's
Yes.
deal, and then coming to take on product security as it is today, right?
Yes.
How do you define your role? I mean, what kind of responsibility would someone in your role have, and how can someone be equipped to take on that responsibility?
Absolutely. So today, my role, I would say, is a catalyst, is an evangelist, is somebody who inspires people to put on the security hat, even if they are not in the traditional title of a security hat.
Sure.
When you look at product security or application security, there are different roles that you could have. My role is to look at it from the holistic end-to-end perspective, not just the strategy piece, but also the implementation and working with operations and getting the entire end-to-end view of application security. And the way I got into application security is also funny. As I was doing systems integration and data integration, the person who was doing security work left the company, and I was tasked with risk assessments for the government. We had government clients at that time, and I looked into the NIST 853 and all the NIST standards, and it was fascinating. And it was just like, yes, this is how you could do it. It's privately leveraging whatever I built on 10 plus years ago when I initially came into security into what it is today. So it's a bit of being a people person, building the right relationships so that you manage your internal clients, your external clients. You help people understand why it is important, what they are doing, especially from a security perspective. Because application security, when you look at other business units, other business units get funding and they would say, okay, we have $1 million to spend, and here's what we will spend it on, and this is the return on investment that you will get. And it's approved by the board of directors or whoever it is that's approving it. But when it comes to security, there's no specific return on investment that you can say, yes, you give me 1 million, I'll give you 10 million, because it's basically protecting that other business unit's data, or it's protecting the brand name. So that's why it's kind of like difficult to add value, to show the value, and that's what we need to do. That's what I do in my role. And even from a siloed perspective, if you are a developer, you are like, oh, the security people come in. They are. I can have a definition of a security person in just 2 alphabets. They are the NO people. The no people.
Yeah. I've heard that many times, yes.
They're like, oh my God, their security is coming. Okay, I better look the other way because they are going to stop me from my, ROI of 10 million that I have promised my board, and they're going to put all these things. So I have to incorporate security as an afterthought and just do it for the sake of doing it. So I think that's important on how do you balance, and that's where I come in, where you look at the development team and what they are working on, and look at how do you get that kind of a balance between making sure that just as you breathe in and you breathe out, it's not an afterthought that wait, did I breathe in? I think I did. You don't think that. You just automatically breathe in.
It has to be natural.
It has to be natural. So of course, sometimes if you're getting stressed, you might breathe more heavily. But if you can incorporate security in your day-to-day activities, as easy as breathing in, breathing out, it's not an afterthought. I think that's where my role would be successful.
Well, I think, I mean, that's very aspirational. I think also inspirational for a lot of us who are, in the journey with you. But I believe, security, fortunately for many of us, I think we have experienced that it has moved from one silo to become more embedded into the business, right? And I think nobody probably sees this in your role more than you, right? That product security and application security is all about the application, and what is application about? It's about the business, right? And how do you work with your counterparts in the business? How do you make them comfortable to work with you? Because that no, which is an off switch, you have to turn it over into an on switch, right? And the light bulb goes on. So what's your take on collaboration across from security with business?
I think you're spot on, because how do you turn it from a no to a yes, and I think it's very important. I mean, I love this book by Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Yeah,
uh, it's important to clarify why you want to do something, and when you
absolutely.
identify that why you're doing it, then the how and the what becomes very easy. So I think from my perspective, if you show, and then another thing is using data driven decisions. So it's important to get top down collaboration, bottoms up collaboration. But if you just go back and tell them, I'm security, I'm telling you to do so because it's my job and I'll do it, they're going to push you aside. But if you go to them and then you give them data, like, for example, the Verizon data breach report, you have so many, have IBM report, you look at Puppet. I mean, so many companies do give out reports, like you have Veracode State of Software Security, but I think that was long ago. The last one they did was 2017, but still it has good data. For example, if you look at the Verizon data breach report, it talks about 45% of all the attacks, they feature hacking. And in hacking too, 90% of those are through public facing web applications. I mean, despite ransomware, insider threat, all of those different other ways of, you could breach into a system, but web application is the easy front door. So when
Right.
you look into that aspect and saying, listen, I understand you have, only 1 million that you want to spend towards your ROI. I completely get it, and I'm with you, because that's the way, we all want to do our business. But do you know how much it costs for a data breach? So one data breach record, just one stolen record, costs about $245. So, and an average breach for an average company, and this is again IBM data, it's like 8 million. So that's what we are here to protect.
Mhm.
And when we talk about, then they're like, okay, I get it. Security is important, but Jyothi, you have to understand, I have deliverables. Like I'm releasing every month. I'm sometimes releasing, if I am doing agile, I release every day.
Right.
So you come to me and you tell me that you want to implement your program. Tell me how. And then again, you can use data. Again, IBM, you have data, which basically shows if it costs X amount of dollars to fix a bug in design time, it becomes 100 times post production. So if it's like say, let's say it's $120 to
Yeah. Yeah.
fix, let's say $40 an hour per person, and it's like 3 hours to fix a bug for a small tiny bug in the design phase.
Right.
You're running your build and you
That
see
that could be functionality, that could be security, but it's it's very
yeah,
much inherent to the quality of the product that you're building.
into the quality of the product. So you shift left, and when you look into that and saying shifting left will help you identify that. So that's, it's all about inspiring people instead of saying you shall do so because I say so.
Mhm.
It's inspiring, and they get it. They're like, yes, we don't want to spend $12,000, we want to spend $120, but tell us how. And that's where your tenets of your security program come in, where you look at your program, you look at from understanding, okay, here's how integrating into the build, and DevSecOps is an important aspect, which automation, I think, is not as valued today by the corporations, and it should
Mhm.
be. Because if you look at it, when my daughter was young, I mean, she's old now, but when she was in kindergarten, no, elementary school, she used to study math, extra math through Kumon, and she used to have violin practice, and she
Yeah.
used to love both.
Oh
But
gosh,
she was
that,
so,
that's so much fun. Yeah, I can.
Kumon, right? And so,
Yes.
but she had this inherent resistance to Kumon. But she would be doing her violin practice all the time. And so then I realized, when she loves math and she loves violin, what's the difference? The difference was that her violin teacher had told her Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, 5 to 5:30. She had written a timetable and said, that's your practice time. So it was ingrained in her mind. 5 p.m. Wednesday, practice time, and then writing in your log and then showing your teacher. Whereas Kumon was after, it was an afterthought. It's like, I have to do Kumon. Okay, have you done Kumon? If you build, so that's, if you translate that into real life, into security.
We're still children, Jyothi. I get it.
You see what I'm saying? So if you don't have a set schedule, if you don't have a set routine, which is that it becomes an easy habit. If you want to go running, you set up, you have that habit already ingrained in you. You don't think when you have to brush your teeth, you don't think you have to brush your teeth because it's an ingrained habit. So that's how you translate to security.
Right.
When you have it ingrained in your processes. So one way you could talk about is there are different statistical SAS tools, but you could ingrain them into your build. So as a developer, I finish my code and check in, and then the build runs. But the Jenkins build is aligned to a software testing program through an API, and you could either break it, or when you log back in again, you get an email that says, hey, based on the policy that has been set by Jyothi and team, you have a high vulnerability or a critical vulnerability that is related to cross-site scripting or SQL injection. And then here's, how it's broken. And then you have governance gates that says, oh, okay, so this is the $120 gate, which you want to get to. And that's what we use to work with the businesses to say, here's value in automation and building this, CI pipeline that you could automate your processes. It's not an afterthought. It's like your violin and Kumon, where it's automated. So that's how we help, get that. So a whole part of that would be communication. And communication, again, not just from a here's what it is, here's a status update, but using metrics and data that clearly drive. That's again, when you use data, when you say 45% are have failed policy, when your bar, your policy states you should be about 80%. That's a clear indication that says, OMG, from 45 I have to go to 80. I have a lot of work to do, versus an email that says you have work to do, please fix your bugs. You might just hit delete, but when you see these colors, or so that's again another concept that you say, what metrics, and that could be another whole discussion.
I know. I mean, this is this goes back to, probably reminds me of the saying, the age old saying now. In God we trust. Everyone else should bring data.
Yes.
So at least if nothing at all, the fear of God. But when you just brought up a very interesting topic, because this was not like this for a long time, right? And also the methodologies for development has so much changed in the last few years. I mean, just the few years. So we're literally building a program as we are running it, and initially it was all waterfall, and then there was this agile, then this hybrid, and now the whole CI/CD models that have come in, right? So you also have new tools. So and a lot of this, as we started the discussion with, is people, right? Getting them to trust you and to believe in you. You touched upon the metrics part of it, to show them with the numbers as to how the impact is, right? How do you get people to change from their existing processes to the new ones? I mean, when their operations themselves are changing from waterfall to agile, is it infusion of new teams, or is it changing the behavior of existing teams, or it's melding the two? I mean, what's your thought on that?
I think it's a great question, because I remember Robin Sharma's quote. He says, change is very messy in the beginning, but it's brilliant towards the end. So, and change is something we always face, but it's really messy when you're trying to figure things out. And I had the opportunity of running the application security program at two companies, the one I work right now and my previous job. It is very hard. It's very hard to inspire people to change at an enterprise level. So what we did, and I think it's important again, I presented the same at an RSA conference in 2017 as well, on how do you envision and how do you scale the program. So I think it boils down to a few key things. The first thing is, you have to have the right strategy for what the program should be. What may work for me may not work for you. and may not work for a third person, or what may work for you may not work for me. So it's like so that's very important. So I was thinking it's like a castle. Like when you want to fortify, when you have the you have the fortified city, and then you have this beautiful castle in the center. How do you your crown jewels are there? Then how do you protect that? So one is you look at all the threat, you do threat modeling. You try to understand, okay, is this is the weakest, your security is as strong as your weakest link. So you identify where is it that you have to put more focus, and you could also use your penetration test results, or you could use your, that's towards the right of the pipeline, on what are your key factors, or your web application firewall. You could look into that and see what are the top vulnerabilities that people are using to attack, that's specific for your company. And you could do the same thing at towards the right when you have the pen testing. What are those? You bring those in, and then you put that into your leftmost, where you have your security requirements, where you have definition of done, or you have the acceptance criteria. So the scrum master or the product owner would help understand that, here's my definition of done. You have these security stories. If you have a externally facing application, web application, or you have a microservice, you have an API, you need to add these particular based on what we know that are particular to our company. We incorporate that to the leftmost, and then we create the security program that would say, this is how you add security requirements into your code, and here's how you implement that from a people, process, technology. How do you implement that with your product owners and your scrum masters that would have through daily stand-ups, with the grooming sessions, and with your retrospectives. So that's how you would do that, and then you would build in kind of like an automation where it's not an afterthought. That's really, really important from a security program to help people understand the importance of automation, and then utilize, as they go towards, even before you release to production, make sure that, all the gates, the governance gates, like if you have 85% as a policy that, or you have, no policy fading flaws, that has to be adhered to. And then you have that process towards that. So first things is you build a program on these tenets. That's number one. And again, based on your program, your applications, your your perimeter, and what's important for you, what are your crown jewels. The second piece would be the communication piece. It's so great to have a great vision, but it remain a vision if it's not implemented. And similarly, if you just go and jump into action and implement something without a vision, that becomes a nightmare. So you have to draw that first you plan it out, and then comes the piece of how do you implement this program. So first is top-down approach. You have to have the C-level, senior leadership team's approval or blessing. You cannot do anything without that. That's I think extremely important. And the C-suite also needs to understand, at a really high level, kitchen English, like you don't need to get technical. They don't need to know what a cross-site scripting flaw is, but they need to know it will cost this much. It'll have these many hours, and this is the way to be implemented. And here are the metrics that you will see that your KPIs will show whether it's a success or a failure. So, and then bottoms up as well. You have office hours, you have training, along with the implementation of the program, where all the developers want to do the right thing. It's just they don't know how to. So the training.
I trust you when you say that. They're not in a mad rush to get their job done, but they also want to get it done right. Yes. And I think that's been a journey also, right? I mean, I think that's where the communication piece that you just mentioned is so important, that it's not just we got you all these tools and best processes and methodologies, but we are with you as you go along this journey, right?
Yes, that is right. That's very important. And I think if you make life easier for them, if you add it into their daily stand-ups, into their planning sessions, you use the planning poker tool that you have to size the security stories, and then you automate that. Eventually, so even if they are releasing daily, I think it should be okay, because, and then also the metrics will show proof of whether the program is going up or it's going down. And I think those metrics will be, again, the key driver towards the success of the program.
Absolutely. No, I think, that it is a journey as you go, and the transitions that we have seen from different types of development methodologies coming into where we are today is definitely something worth considering. And as you deliver, deploy, and evolve your program within your organization, you have to also show, as you mentioned, that the leaders in the organization, the executives and the senior leadership team needs to be very aware, if not technically, but at least outcome wise aware of the impact that this makes, right? So
yes,
very, very important part of the journey is that communication. Okay, so let me I think just 20-30 minutes just passed away so fast, so fascinating.
Oh my gosh,
Jyothi,
yes.
yeah, so
It's so much talk.
we have a couple of more important topics. I think the most important topic that I want to touch on, and probably that could help you and us as a community to expand and bring in more people, is your whole engagement in women in cyber and diversity.
Yes.
Let us know a little bit more of what you've been doing, and what is your message to the youngsters, as well as the women who want to get into cyber and waiting for that little push.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a part of the Aspire program at my work that mentors younger people. And I love that. I think it's a two-way street where I also mentor through Toastmasters, which is another, personal development that I do over the weekends. But from a woman in cybersecurity, my advice would be, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And many times you're siloed in what you do. And I think it was just by a stroke of luck that I got out of being a programmer. I would have spent 20 plus years in programming because it's so exciting. I mean, it's so awesome to be coding and seeing what you've coded, go to production.
And let me stop you there. You have other talents too, which is art. You're an artist. And when you
Yes, I
say
love
you're an
coding.
artist and you find it exciting to code, I mean,
Yes.
that must be some unique combination. And I won't forget that you also mentioned that you saw the NIST 853 and you were excited about it too. So there must be a unique thing in there, right?
So there's a great book, 7 Steps to Genius by Michael Gelb, who talks about Da Vinci. So Da Vinci was a great artist, but he was also the biggest inventor. I think girls should not fall into this mold of here's how a girl should be. I love to cook, I love to garden, I'm into microgreens, I'm into composting. So there's so much more that's not specific to your gender. You read books, it's not supposed to be just specific to your gender. So that's what I think. You have to be the best version of yourself and be bold to take risks. And it's also important. I truly recognize. I mean, I have 2 kids. It has been a journey for me. In my previous company, I used to leave early at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because my younger one didn't like to eat food much. So I had to make sure she was taken care of. I would come home and work from home. That was a challenge because I had to work extra hard to prove that I'm not coming home and just feeding her and cooking. I am very committed to my work, and that showed through my results. So it has been a journey. I did my master's part-time while working at Travelocity and while having a baby in the middle. But I think it's really important that you do that, because that's important. Those are the big rocks in the jar that you have. Your family, your faith in God, that's very important. You keep that, but it's a fine balance. You always have. For me, it's like if you have too much family, too much money, too much of work, too excess of anything is bad. So for me, I understand that for women, it's been hard because you have to work extra hard. You have to, you're the caretaker, either for your parents or for your kids. You are the caretaker, but it's a wonderful opportunity to, become a hero. And I remember reading somewhere, you're a hero if you are doubly strong. First, strong to take care of yourself. And that's very important, because if you want to, and the second strength comes to take care of somebody else. So if you want to donate $100, you should first have $100 that you can spare or you can earn to donate, right? So I think that's where I feel not just for women, but for men, everybody, you could be caretakers, but balance it out and strive towards that. And what has helped me in the past is networking and mentoring. And I would suggest, if you have 20 plus years in your career and you feel you can contribute something, find a mentee, make sure you giving the right advice, and if they feel grateful, tell them to pass it pass it on. Let's start a kindness chain. Or if you are really starting out in your career, be bold. Don't stick to one area. You can change and learn systems integration. You can change program management. Keep learning, keep improving, and then when you network, you have OWASP forums you could go to. There are conferences, ISSA, ISACA, ISSA International Conference. You have, events like this, the CFF Foundation, the CFF Annual Summit, where you get to hear from industry leaders. Like, I loved the annual summit last year, Val. Amazing topics. So you understand what is out there in the industry that's important, and then that's another learning that you could incorporate. Make your car your university. It's been ages since I heard radio, but I have something where I go for my walk. I have my headphones. I'm listening to audiobooks. So you drop your kids to Kumon, go for a walk while listening to your audiobook on something, or LinkedIn Learning. So that's what I would recommend and suggest that has worked for me, is you never stop learning. And you always try to put your best version and define that best differently every day. What I am best today, if it was the same definition that I had 10 years ago, then I would not have grown. So growth happens when you step out of your comfort zone, and you
have to stay part
remember
of it.
that. Yes, I have stepped out of my comfort zone. Change is messy, but I have learned something, and then I do that every day.
Well, that is absolutely inspirational. I really love how even one session that we talk about technology, we can wrap around our, being a parent, being a good teacher, being a mentor, and still being able to do the work that we want to do, right? So again, I know I would put a plug here for our Society of Mentors. As that's how we get to contribute back, and those that are joining on the audience, I think, should take Jyothi's cue and follow the lead and be a mentor
I'm
to
here
someone.
to learn.
Right. Well, I do have a technical question from the audience, which I believe, from. So you mentioned about your journey and your how you operate, right? So has it seen improvement in the cyber posture with this approach? And any small nugget you can share with respect to that somebody can take on as a use case?
Yes, I think definitely. I think it's very important. How do you prove the value of something? Like, if you spend $1 million on a security program, how do you prove that it's improved or it's declined? What's the value that's giving up? Value added benefits. So from understanding how your work program is working or not, I would again go back to your KPIs, key performance indicators, and your metrics. So one metric I can share is flaw density. If you look at, let's say you have a SaaS tool, and there are many SaaS tools in the industry. There are also freeware. You go to OWASP. I love OWASP. It is a great resource of freeware, and you can upload your code and you scan it, and you see how many policy failing flaws per 1 MB of code. So let's say you have 6 policy failing flaws for the 1 MB code, and then you go back and you fix your flaws and you run it again. If you have 3, that means it's gone 50% down. So that delta is what you can use as a great indicator to show that, hey, my flaw density was 12. I had 12 flaws, but now my flaw density is 0.5.
And this is something that developers can do themselves, right? I mean, the collaborative tools, or does it have to come from the security team or your team?
No, it's again, it can come from any, you could take on a freeware and do it yourself, but it's always a part of a program. It's better when you have a security team that does it. And that also brings up to the point where, it's like, let's look at the earlier example of a castle and a fort. If you just have a few people monitoring security all the time, and then the citizens are all like running haywire, it won't be effective. So I think if every person becomes a security expert, when you build it, and I mean, there's another whole different topic that I'm so passionate about, is your security champions. If you build security champions within, if you have some basic training and you build that into your program, where a developer becomes a security champion, and he becomes a peer code reviewer, and he says, hey, this is how it should be working. That is way to disseminate the information. But back to your question, flaw density is one of the good metrics to see if cyber posture is getting better or worse. And similarly, you have a lot of monitoring tools. You have different kinds of monitoring that you could do to understand your deltas. But most of the times, I think if you, let's say you have training, then how many people are taking your training? That could be another good resource. So you could then correlate that this business unit has consistent flaw density of 12, and this business unit has a consistent flaw density of 3. Now let me see the developer training that you have put in. This people, 20% of people have taken training. Here, 100% have taken. Then you can also add, becomes like, okay, this makes sense. And those are the metrics you can see for yourself, and you can show your C-level executives as well to show that your program is successful.
Yeah, so no, I think it's extremely important to have the data and equip people, train, enable, and coach them to embrace the changes and the practices that you want to. I mean, it's an investment already from the business, so why not, right?
Yes.
So I think extremely important point. So thank you, Jyothi, for among all the other topics that we talked about, and this also, the emphasizing the practical ways we can embrace change and secure our businesses, enable our businesses to understand the importance of cybersecurity, being secure and security by design, left shifting the some of the activities, and enabling champions within businesses. So all great points. And above all, I think the parental coaching that you provided is just phenomenal. Right? Just
absolutely.
For all ages, I think will remain with us. Will resonate probably more now that we are to work from home and remember
Yes, true.
it's the homework and their learning versus what we want to share and learn with others. So this has been a great session, Jyothi. It went very fast. And I'll probably share some of the questions that are coming in with you as well offline. But definitely, it was a exciting session. We're looking forward to it, and now we have it. So this goes into our book of knowledge that we have been building for the next generation, right? I just wanted to conclude this program sharing a few of the updates, and one of the most important ones, of course, is this week's program with our community in India. It's actually some of the most prominent cybersecurity leaders from India, and it will be open. This starts the Cyber Future Institute and the Cyber Future Foundation's programs overall that we've been working for the last 18 months. That you can probably see this 6th in the morning. It will be opened by the National Cybersecurity Coordinator of India, Lieutenant General Pant, and we'll have also the National Cybersecurity Strategist, Lieutenant Colonel Harpreet Virk. Two of the most, I would say, prolific cybersecurity leadership pioneers that I have ever met in India. One of them is Dr. Durgabhusha Dubey, who used to be the cybersecurity leader for RBI. He's joined Reliance Industries now, and one of the I think able mentors that probably Jyothi, you and I also both learned something from them.
Yes.
While it has been pretty long journey in the US for cybersecurity leaders as well as practitioners. We have evolved and we've learned a lot of things that we do today that needs to be propagated around the world for building a trusted cyber future as what we are set to build. So the India program is going to be the first program in a journey of about 8 programs before we get into our annual summit again later October. And we welcome everybody here on this session to join as well. It's a little bit early in the morning. It's 7 a.m. on the 6th at 7 Central, but many of us just wake up and have nothing to do right now. But we do record this program. So your program as well as the other programs are going to be available. As far as next week's CFF live session for the same time, we will have Diana Kelly from Microsoft joining us, talking about something that we all want to hear about. We want to get rid of passwords. So the next week's topic is passwordless cyber. Okay, how can we get rid of passwords? And I think that's probably giving you enough to look forward to. Again, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Jyothi, for spending the time with us. And have a good rest of the day. Stay safe, stay healthy. We will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.